and the high places I'll bring down. Bishop William L. Bonner, The Man and His God. Chapter 1. The Farm Boy from Georgia. The Roaring Twenties was a very active part of American history. Many things were happening, both good and bad. Jazz, ragtime, and the blues dominated the music of the times and played on phonographs and radios. Alcoholic beverages were the popular drinks of the times. Illegal bars and other businesses flourished in spite of the new prohibition laws, which prohibited the manufacture and sale of alcoholic beverages. Short hair and skirts were worn by some women who defied society's standard of dress for respectable women. Huge crowds attended the popular sports events of football, baseball, golf, and prize fighting. Charles Lindbergh made the first non-stop solo flight from New York City to Paris in the amazing time of 33 and a half hours. The 20s were not so enjoyable for most African Americans. Life was hard and the good paying jobs were not available. Few of them could participate in the good times. In the South, where most of the Negroes lived, many earned their living as domestics and sharecroppers. The farming industry was a major source of support for the American economy. The state of Georgia had its share of this industry by producing many crops such as peanuts, cotton, pecans, onions, and peaches. Atlanta, the capital, was undergoing extensive urban development. Therefore, the construction industry was becoming a vital source of employment opportunities. Milledgeville, Georgia is located about 100 miles southwest of Atlanta, Georgia. Although its population is less than 20,000, it has a great history. From 1803 to 1868, Milledgeville was the city which served as the state capital. During General William Tecumseh Sherman's November 1864 occupation, his troops were encamped on the local church grounds. In 1921, Milledgeville was the home of the Georgia College and the Georgia Insane Asylum. It was also the birthplace of William Lee Bonner. The Bonner and Stubbs families were a well-known and vital part of the Negro community in the rural area. Emmett Bonner was born in a very large family of 18, 10 boys and 8 girls. Janie B. Stubbs, a lovely and quiet young lady, came from a more average-sized family of 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls. Emmett and Janie Bonner were the proud parents of 5 children, 2 girls and 3 boys. Leola, Emmett Jr., William, Louise, and Richard. This was a strong and loving family, with the father being a strict disciplinarian and the mother being a very kind and soft-spoken woman. She was also firm and determined that her children be raised properly. The family worked very hard as farmers to make a decent and comfortable living. Many of the Negro families were sharecroppers, but the Bonner family was more independent. Although they worked for Mr. Watt Evans, their business arrangement was mainly limited to exchanging fertilizer for a bountiful corn harvest. Emmett worked also in the dairy of Mr. Evans. William Bonner drove the milk truck. He loved delivering and often fantasized about having a big car of his own and seeing the United States and the world. Farming produced many crops such as cotton, vegetables, peanuts, and fruit. Milking cows, slopping hogs, and raising chickens were not pleasant jobs but necessary for survival. Getting up at 4:30 a.m. each morning to plow and work the fields was also an unpleasant routine. William hated walking behind the mill, and he became determined to leave the farm one day soon. Janie Bonner was an excellent cook, and William always looked forward to having his favorite food, sweet potatoes, at almost every meal. He also favored the vegetables and fruit from their gardens. Mom Bonner was strict about her children eating all the meals she prepared. The Bonner boys learned how to cook and each became proficient in this area. They were a strong and healthy family. Moving closer to the town, the children had access to a small local store. This was a delightful place to go because of all the goodies they could buy for a penny. They would buy the penny wheel crackers and various candy treats. But the best of all were the Ike and Mike cookies, which were pink on one side and chocolate on the other. What a great taste. Chewing gum was not available at the time. The Bonner children attended school only 6 months a year because they were needed on the farm. On rainy days when they worked in the fields, the families would go into the woods and cut up trees for firewood. They would stack huge piles of firewood in the yard. This was the source of fuel for the fireplace and cooking stove. The school was indeed a one-room school housed in an old church, and it was called the Nazarene School. The students were taught by an excellent teacher, Miss Mary Giles. She taught about 35 children from grades 1 to 6. Miss Giles lived in the city of Milledgeville and walked the several miles each day to school. When some of the parents learned she had no transportation, they arranged to provide it for her. She was really a dedicated teacher. There was no local high school for the students who had finished the 6th grade. Miss Giles would bring her own children's books from the high school in Milledgeville and continue to teach the children, even algebra. She was a remarkable woman. She had children and always amazed the students by having several children born during the vacations, and no one even knew she was pregnant. Later, a high school was built in Baldwin County, which accommodated the rural areas. This letter, written by Janie Bonner in 1977, describes William as being destined for great things. October 26, 1977. William Lee Bonner was born November 12, 1921. When he was 2 years of age, a friend of ours came to our house, Mr. Huey Bailey. He told my husband, "This is going to be a preacher. I can tell by the way his head is made." So he would not go out to play like other children. I would have to tell him to go out and play and take some exercise for yourself. He would play around me quite a bit. So as he grew up, my girls would play dolls and they would make out like one would die and they would bury it. So when a chicken or a kitten would die, they would bury them and get William to be the minister to preach the funeral. They had a graveyard where they would bury them. At age 14, William had a wonderful experience. The Lord spoke to him and called him to preach. He gave him the gift of knowledge and revealed to him some of his work in the ministry. He was told to be a builder of buildings and would lead many people to salvation. Even then, it was evident that he was a very compassionate and religious young man. William's parents were good, strong Baptists who were faithful to their church. They prayed for a better life for their children. William preferred to go to the Methodist church because he said the Spirit led him there. As he grew up, he went to Sunday school. All of my children but him joined the church I was a member of. He would go to a CME church and join there. They made him superintendent of the Sunday school and the church. He would raise money for his Sunday school and church as he grew up. William was a loner most of the time. He enjoyed reading and read a lot. It seemed William was preoccupied with his own dreams and thoughts of a better life. However, he liked girls too. During his teen years, he dated occasionally. Emmett and William shared the family car on Sunday dates. They took turns dropping off and picking up each other from the girls' houses. This arrangement was necessary and worked out well. William was determined to leave the farm. I rejected that farm. I told my daddy I'm supposed to obey you, but I am not going to stay on this farm. Had I said one more word, I knew I would have to get off the ground with a swollen lip. William wanted to work and make money and have a good life. He believed that he was destined to be rich. When he shared this thought with his family, they laughed at him. But his mother put her arms around him and hugged him and encouraged him to believe that it would happen. "You're going to be rich," she said. and I have loved my mama from that day on. I knew that in order to be rich, I must succeed. Money does not just jump into your lap. The rest of my family said that a poor Negro boy from Georgia with that kind of dream and ambition was in for a rude awakening. But William was determined to see his dream come true. He was not a lazy person, and he was willing to work hard in spite of the obstacles he would encounter. He believed he could be successful and make all of them very proud of him. He became more and more anxious to leave. Above all his excitement and planning, the Spirit was calling him forth to begin the work God had called him to do. He could not ignore God. He must acknowledge this calling and be about his Father's business as well. Have thy tools ready. God will find thee work. Charles Kingsley, 1818.